who has just joined us, hello, welcome back to Redemptive Women. The question we've been asked for the segment of today's show is, how can female characters be seen as a redemptive force? To discuss this, we have decided to focus on the Odyssey and the Arabian Nights. And for those who missed it at the start, the Oxford Dictionary definition of redemption is the act of saving or state of being saved from the power of evil, the act of redeeming. So, let's get on with it. Girls, what do you think?
I think if we're going to start with the Odyssey, I think the most important female character there is definitely Athena. Mm-hmm. She is the act of divine intervention that runs throughout the epic. She's the reason Odysseus gets home, I would argue. For example, in Book 5, it states, his skin would have been ripped away and his bones smashed, had not Athena given him a thought. And, to further emphasise this, in Book 1, it states that if the blessed gods at last will let Odysseus return home, I will go to Ithaca, showing how she's directly influencing actions herself. I even went as far as to propose the idea on Twitter ahead of the show, and James Morrison said that Odysseus would have died if it were not for the help of the goddess Athena. Similarly, John Scott said, Athena did nothing for Odysseus during those long years when he wandered through ancient Greece. Yet from the first book, she's not absent from a single book which describes events later in that time, which shows how she's directly impacting his journey.
Firstly, I'd like to say hello to both our viewers. Hello, thanks for watching. I'd like to also say that Scott also says that without the consent of Zeus obtained in Book 1, Athena could not have been an actor in the poem, as in Book 1 it states that, come then, we must plan how to get him back home. And it also says, Telemachus even exclaims, I call upon the gods, Zeus will grant vengeance.
Yes, but you also have to take into consideration that Odysseus is likely missing home. He probably wants to get back to see Penelope. In Book 5, Hermes cannot find Odysseus because he is sitting by the shore, as usual, sobbing in grief and pain. Quite clearly that shows that he is missing home and has a reason to be wanting to come back.
Alright, I'll grant you both good points.
Thank you.
Zeus and Penelope clearly impact Odysseus' trip home.
Yeah.
I still think we're missing something if we don't acknowledge Athena further though. I mean, look at her interaction with Nausicaa in Book 5, when she tells her that she's soon to be married and she needs to do her laundry. That directly impacts Odysseus. Similarly, with Telemachus, in her roles of mentor and Menelaus, she is able to guide him to starting the entire epic off. She even speaks to him with words like birds, which further emphasises her role as owl-eyed Athena.
If you think about the ending of the book, William Allen actually says that the simple moral paradigm that equates all the suitors with the murderous adulterer is first proposed by Athena. It quotes in Book 1 that may Asidius come meet the suitors with that urge to kill, the bitter courtship and short of life for them. It also states that I refuse to grant these girls a clean death, since they poured down shame on me and mother when they laid beside the suitors, continuing to say that as doves or thrushes spread their wings to fly, which also relates back to the birds.
In the Penelope ad by Margaret Atwood, she does go on to say how Penelope has 12 favourite maids. These 12 just so happen to be the ones that were labelled as impertinent and rude by Eurycleia, when in reality they were assisting Penelope by gaining knowledge of the gossip that was being spread by the suitors. This then resulted in Penelope blaming herself for their deaths because she did not inform Eurycleia of this plan due to the lack of trust she had in her.
Well, that's an interesting point, and adds something to the idea that maybe Athena isn't as redemptive as we'd like her to be, but it was an adaptation.
I know, but it is still something to take into consideration when thinking about the grand scheme of things.
Also to take into consideration, Athena doesn't actually save the maids.
Very true. And going off from this, I was actually recently reading Arabian Nights, and Scheherazade could definitely be considered as a redemptive force.
She's the one that sacrifices herself to save all the other women.
Yeah, that's the one. Scheherazade insisted that she would be married to the king, who kills his wives every day after their marriage. She did so to stop this ritual from carrying on and came up with the idea of telling a story that never ends in aim of prolonging their marriage and saving as many people as possible. On page 18 she states, "It will cause the king to stop his practice, save herself and deliver the people." Surely there isn't a female more redeeming than this.
I saw on Twitter that James Clayton actually said that the king, in a word, has gone mad, which is a very interesting interpretation of the text, especially when you acknowledge his belief that Shahrazad actually cures him of this madness.
Well, it could also be argued that the sister is also a redemptive force, because as Shahrazad's plan would have failed without her, she is a fundamental part of the story, as if she had never agreed to say, "Sister, if you are not sleepy, tell us a story." That's on page 17. It is unlikely that Shahrazad could have convinced the king to listen while by herself.
Okay, so I'll grant you that her sister is probably the reason Shahrazad's alive.
Yes, but it was Shahrazad who suggested the idea in the first place, so it is important not to undermine Shahrazad's character. After all, she did go against her father's wishes in order to put her life in danger for the safety of other people.
Oh yeah, that would have been very useful.
True, but it also would have been incredibly difficult at the time. Women and girls would have been expected to follow by their father's rules and to follow the patriarchal leadership of the house. I mean, look at Aladdin.
See, we are going a little bit off track here, Izzy. Aladdin wasn't in the original text, but I do see where you're coming from.
The Pleiad was also an adaptation.
Okay, touche.
Anyway, back to Shahrazad. After her father states will perish because of her miscalculation in page 15, she goes on to rebel against the wishes, telling him, and I quote, "Such tales do not deter me from my request. If you do not take me to King Shahryar, I shall go to him myself behind your back and tell him that you refuse to give me to one like him."
Exactly. I saw on Twitter that Tarek Shamar says that men's struggle over women is vital to the narrative, and this is exactly what I mean. She is clearly a headstrong character who knows exactly what she wants and won't back down, even if it does go against the patriarchal values of the time.
I'm starting to think that she's one of the most redemptive women there is. I mean, if you look at the repetition of the phrase, "But morning overtook Shahrazad and it lapsed into silence," on almost every page of certain translations, it shows that she is undaunted and unrelenting.
However, the ending of Arabian Nights is quite ambiguous.
You're right, it is. Depending on which version you read, the ending does change. In some, she finishes the story and the king spares her life due to the long life they've had together and the children she has borne him. In others, he kills her anyway, which in some ways could debate her role of a redemptive force. And in others, it's just left as a never-ending story.
Bit like this discussion if we don't move on to this ad break.